So let us continue with Vijnana Matrata, the 8 consciousnesses. Alaya consciousness. We have come to Alaya consciousness, which is the 8th consciousness. Alaya consciousness, as we know now, we've been talking about it for a few sessions, is the repository. It is the receptacle of all the karmic seeds. In the Sanskrit language, karmic seeds, we call them bija, karmic seeds. Seeds is just a metaphorical word, not just seeds of a plant, of an apple, but seeds, it has latent energy. So it's karmic seeds, Sanskrit bija, of the 7 consciousnesses, storing all the experiences of the individual since time's beginning. It arises from moment to moment together with the functions of sense faculties and the various cognitive and affective formations. Cognitive functions is inside, the affective formations outside. We call it, in the Sanskrit language, we call it samskara. That constitutes one's ongoing existence. And I've been using the ocean as a simile for Alaya consciousness, the 8th consciousness. I call it the Alaya ocean and its consciousness waves. So you can imagine the Alaya consciousness, the Alaya Vijnana, is imagined as a vast ocean in us. We are a vast ocean in us. Then the 7 other consciousnesses are waves on its surface. What are these 7 consciousnesses? The eyes, the ears, the nose, the tongue, mentality, and the body. Here, the body actually is a term for all the aggregates of the body's functions. Touch here, it means all the interactions inside and outside the body. It's a grand conglomerated term. So, eyes, when the wind of matter blows in front of us, our eyes attach to them. I call it, when the wind blows the ocean is still. When external winds blows the ocean, the wind of matter, then the eyes witness that, the eyes catch sight of that. So when our eyes see, that is when our eyes see, our eyes interact with matter. Ears, with sound, when the wind of sound blows, then the waves, the ears consciousness waves come up. Similarly, nose, the sense organ, when the wind of smell, of fragrance, blow the ocean, then the nose consciousness arises. When the wind of taste blows the ocean on the surface, then the tongue, the tongue consciousness arises. And when all the dharmas, everything, all the imaginations, all thinking of the past, about the future, about the present, the mentality, all dharmas, the winds of all dharmas come, blow it, and then the mentality arises. Those are the 6 consciousnesses. And of course, the 6 consciousnesses interact with the ego, which is the mano consciousness, the manas, we call it. The mentality is the mano consciousness. The ego is the manas consciousness, the 7th consciousness. So all the eyes, ears, nose, tongue, the brain or the mentality and the body all interact with the ego at the same time momentarily and forms all our experiences. So if the alaya is imagined as a vast ocean, then all the other 7 consciousnesses are waves on its surface. You, that is you and me, we have that consciousnesses. All the 7 consciousnesses are not separate from the 8th. It's the same ocean. It's not separate from the 8th consciousness. The alive consciousness, the ocean. Although they appear differently, but all the other consciousnesses are not separate from the ocean, from the 8th, nor do they disturb the stillness of its depths. Would the waves disturb the stillness of the depth of the consciousness? No. It's all waves outside. Our deep down 8th consciousness is always still. So they are not separate, the 7 consciousness are not separate from the 8th, nor do they disturb the stillness of its depths, as all are essentially one. Don't separate them, they're all one. The reason why we separate into 8 consciousnesses is we want to delineate each one and make sure we understand how our mind works. So there's the ocean, all our oceans. And the 8th consciousness has its stillness inside. The 8th consciousness is a storage. The 8th consciousness by itself does not cognize, does not make decisions, does not do harming dharmas, does not kill, does not steal. It's the stillness. The 8th consciousness, the alive consciousness, does not differentiate. It just receives all the karmic energy. It stores up all the seeds in our consciousness. And it's how about the 7th, the ego consciousness? Our ego does not think, it's just ego. This is me, this is self, this is self-centered. So, of all these 8 consciousnesses, the one that is the most manipulative, the strongest, is the 6th consciousness, which is our mentality. The 6th consciousness interacts with all the 5, the eyes, the ears, the nose, the tongue, the body, and carry out all the actions and deeds and thinking. So, who is the culprit of all our bad deeds that carry out the bad karma? The 6th consciousness. It's the active guy. The 8th consciousness is not active. It's just receive, storing all the information. It's just like the disk drive of the computer. The disk drive cannot key in all the information. It just stores up everything. The bad, everything about how good you are, how bad you are, wholesome and unwholesome. And the 7th consciousness, the ego consciousness, just is a self-centered consciousness. And it's the 6th, all the first 6 that did all the deeds, all the speeches. So don't you have to watch your 6th consciousness? What we use when we meditate, we use our 6th consciousness, the mano, to do bad deeds, to bad actions, bad thoughts. But at the same time, we say, that's the culprit. That's the 6th consciousness that did all the bad things, that pull us down, that can pull us down to hell. But it can also pull us up to heaven. You can make use of the 6th consciousness to cultivate, to meditate, to do good deeds. So which one do you prefer? So we have to watch our mind. That's what the whole idea is. How we have to watch our mind. And next, we've been talking about the bija, which is the seeds, and it's quite important that we have to elaborate more on the karmic seeds that store in our consciousness, in your consciousness. Bija is a Sanskrit term that is literally translated as seeds. Each seed in the alive consciousness, store consciousness, has potential or energy to produce a result when conditions ripen. It has infinite power to produce a manifestation. So, seeds ripen to become volitional activities. The old and the new seeds together produce all manifestations of the existence of the universe, including all lives. That means we have been using our latent energy to manifest our actions, our speech, our thought, carry out all these actions and involve into karma. And unwholesome karma pull us down. Wholesome karma elevate us. But even wholesome or unwholesome, they're still not pure. Going to the heaven is not yet pure. You just have performed all kinds of wholesome deeds that qualify you, that make you have sufficient karma to go to heaven. But when all this good karma is used up, then you have to fall down to reincarnation. So what we're looking for is to get away from wholesome or unwholesome to nirvana, which is a higher level. Just doing a wholesome is not enough. You have to go to a higher level to transcend wholesome and unwholesome into nirvanic, or I don't know how to call it, enlightenment, to a state where there's no such thing as wholesome and unwholesome. How do we call it? Tathagata? How do we call it? To Buddhahood? And what exactly is Buddhahood? What exactly is nirvana? We as temporal individuals, trying to understand the teachings of the Buddha, we could only think about it using what the Buddha's words have expressed in all the sutras, in all the written languages. But the actual nirvana, nirvanic state, we don't know. But we can only know by following the teachings of the Buddha. Even Buddha said the actual nirvanic state would be only understood by the Buddha who already got enlightenment. It's just like for someone who has never been to Richmond, for example. I can only, if I have been to Richmond, I can only describe Richmond. And the person who has never been to Richmond can only get information of Richmond from words, from language. But he actually hasn't experienced Richmond. He hasn't experienced Buddhahood. He hasn't experienced the nirvanic state of mind. He only got it from words. So people ask, when you're at the Buddha, how do you feel when you're at Buddha? How do you feel? It's just like people ask, when you were in Richmond, what do you see? I can only tell you from words. But that's not accurate. You have to see it for yourself. You have to experience it. But you haven't got to that point yet. You see what I mean? But it is sufficient to know that experiences of Buddhahood, nirvanic state of mind, is the kind of state where you transcend all suffering, where you transcend all mental afflictions, where you transcend samsara of life and death, where you transcend 6 paths of reincarnation, where you're at a state where you are so compassionate that you are helping out all those who haven't reached that point to know that he should be going to that level. And we call them bodhisattvas. The other day, a beginner, not a beginner, someone who has been practicing Buddhism, asked me a question. And this is a simple question, but this question should be fully thought about, pondered on by all those who practice Buddhism. What's the objective of Buddhism? Why do you study Buddhism? What's the ultimate goal that you want to go to? Is Buddhism about meditation? Not killing animals and meditation, and is that Buddhism? I think we should just throw in a few words to explain it. Maybe there's some beginners in here. Buddhism has 2 perspectives in it. The objective of Buddhism. One is for the temporal world to look at it. The other is for the world that transcends the temporal. Let's talk about the temporal, what we experience in this world. Buddhism about the temporal perspective has 3 dimensions to it. The present, the past, and the future. If you study and practice Buddhism, if you study it well and practice well, then in the present life, present time dimensions, it leads you to happiness. It leads you to full understanding of life. Because you know yourself better in studying it. For example, you know how you think, you know all these consciousnesses that's in you, you know how to get away from bad karmic energy and cultivate good energy. At the present life, because you understand Buddhism more, it leads you to a happier state of mind, because you're not involved with bad karmic energy. When you're involved with bad karmic energy, the causality, cause and effect will lead you to bad effects. Will lead you to killing, lying, intoxications, and all kinds of, which will end up with bad results, bad effects. So it would lead you from the present time dimension to a happier life at the present life level. Because you'll be happier by practicing it, by knowing about it, by knowing about yourself and knowing about other people, knowing about the relationship, the interaction, the responding of it. If I can be more specific, then you know how to interact with your family members. You know how to be compassionate. You know how to consider, what is your responsibility. All these would add into the happier life. In a company, you know that your relationship with others, how do you build up a good relationships, and how is your relationship with the society. You'll be a better sentient being, a better citizen, someone who is striving for a happier life at the present level. Dimension. For the past, present, past, and future, for the past dimensions, if you practice and study Buddhism, all the past, you can let go easily. All those abuses, all those sufferings, all those that you have experiences that make you unhappy, you can easily let go of them. You won't bring all the past bad deeds into the present table and always grieve on it, grief-stricken on it, or agonize on it. You know how to let go of them. So at the past level, you let go of all these unhappy events, unhappy sufferings, afflictions. You can easily let go, because meditation is to let go of all these thoughts, all these experiences of the past that you cannot let go. Why are you unhappy about the past? Because you always bring whatever has happened in the past and ponder on it and agonize on it. Your past broken marriages, your past relationships, the past experiences of abuse by family members, your failures in your business, your bankruptcy, all those bad things in the past. You usually bring into the present and agonize on it and think about it, and that's the reason why you become unhappy. But now, the Buddhist teaching easily helps you to train yourself to let go of those. So that would be a happier life if you can let go of the unhappy past. How about the future? Because you can let go of the future, you build up a happier life at the present. That will lead to a happier future too. And talking about a happier future, then we go into the part that transcends the temporal world. What happened to your future? Your future, if you are still tainted with the karmic energy in you, would roll into the next life of reincarnation, which go through the same cycle. You'll be a different body, male or female, different names, and then you're carrying out the same karmic energy, which roll you into life and death again. But the Buddhist teaching said, other than considering about the present happiness of the present life, also think about stop your life and death. Stop samsara. Stop a future continuation of the mental sufferings. Go into nirvanic state. Get into Buddhahood. Get into enlightenment. That transcends everything about the present life. So if I can put it in brief, that's what Buddhism is all about. And if we can still summarize it, life, studying and practicing Buddhism would help you to manifest or to find how to find the intrinsic value in life. What is that intrinsic value in life? In life, some people say life is a process of looking for meaning. What's the meaning of life? At the present level of life, especially in North America, we have enough means to live by. Nobody would be starved to death. We have enough means to live by from one day to the next day. But we don't have enough meaning to live. What's the meaning of living? Breakfast, lunch, dinner, partying, going to work, caring for your kids. What else? And then you die. Is that the meaning of life? Life, in life itself, you've been giving an intrinsic value that we haven't really found. And the Buddha told us that intrinsic value is make use of this life to get in that spiritual enlightenment where you transcend life. You've been given that chance. You've been given that chance to get out from prison. But you're not involved with it. You're still involved with an obscuring life. Obscuring is you're not looking for that meaning. You just are in search of the means to live, not the meaning to live. Don't you need to get the meaning to live? So if you consider life, if life is just eating and keeping your body in shape, and then you die after 100 years, what's the meaning of it? Are you not repeating the same thing? It's just that when you eat, you get the nutrition inside your body and then you get it out. Nutrition inside, get it out, and repeating the same cycle. And finally, your body don't need the nutrition anymore because it itself is not functioning. It's gone. So when you think of it, what's the reason for putting all the nutritions in a temporary, being, and then it dies out later? The meaning, Buddha told us the meaning of life, how to manifest the intrinsic value. Why don't we all increase or look for the intrinsic value? That's in here. That's in the Buddha's teaching. It's not about getting blessings from Buddha. It's about blessings from yourself. And that's what I talked to him about. Life is in search of intrinsic value and realized it. Seeds ripen to become volitional activities. The old seeds and the new seeds together produce all manifestation of the existence of the universe, including all lives. If people ask, who created the world? Who created me? Who created my body? You created your own body, not God. Certainly not God. Who created this hall? Not God. All of us. All those who are involved with it. Those who are involved with getting donations, all those involved with originating an idea, all those who are involved with construction workers, architects, all these are the minds that create this hall, not God. However, if you say that this conglomerated intention is called God, then so be it. Yes, it's God. The words does not matter. You just label it. You don't need to label. When you start to label and stereotype, you already gotten into the ego consciousness. All right, so the next is volitional activities. All the seeds ripen to become volitional activities, and then volitional activities perfume the seeds. The old perfume the new get perfumed themselves, and in necessity, old seeds, the manifestation and the new seeds are mutually dependent upon each other, forming a cycle which forever repeats the same process incessantly, like a torrential waterfall, unless transformed to wisdom. In other words, all our consciousness is like a torrential waterfall, like Niagara Fall. Always, the water is always falling and falling and falling incessantly. That's our mind. Falling into samsara, unless somehow we transform this process into action, into wisdom. Every one of these waves in the ocean said, I'm a wave. But he should know that he's not the wave, he's the water. He should be one with water. When he said, I'm a wave, he's all up and down. I'm a wave. I label myself as a wave. It's blown by all these winds of greediness, jealousy, hatred, depression, you name it. All these winds of mental afflictions blow me, and I become a wave, and I say, I'm a wave. But the Buddha said, you should be one with water. You call yourself a wave, but don't you know that your intrinsic value is water, and you can be go back to water. Then it's one stillness. These seeds are also identified as seeds of karma. Karma is created primarily by our intentions and acting on our intentions with thought, words, and deeds. The karma thus created is said to reside in our subconsciousness, or the storehouse consciousness, until it ripens or until it is purified. The several schools of Buddhism offer a range of practices and approaches for purifying harmful karma. So many modern psychologists talk about subconsciousness. Some psychologists call it the eight, the subterranean, the very, very down below subconsciousness. Then sometimes people ask a question. It seems that Vijnanamatrata, which is the study of the consciousness, the Buddha's study of the consciousness, Vijnanamatrata, via consciousness, is the same as modern psychology. It seems to be the same, right? Modern psychologists talk about some of these things too, about senses, about cognitive, cognitive dissonance and cognitive, behavior and all that. So what's the difference? Basically, the major difference of the Buddha's teaching in consciousness, talk about 2,600 years ago, with the present 100 to 200 years of modern psychology. The major difference, if we can identify it, is modern psychology only concerns with the present life, with how you live with your present life. It does not talk about as detail as the Buddha on previous lives, the reincarnated subconsciousness. And it would not go into the next life. But the Buddha's study of the consciousness concerns not only about the present life, but about life long before and your future life. If you still have to roll into reincarnations, how your life would work, would evolve if you still have to roll into the next round of samsara. So that's the major difference. Modern psychology is usually more concentrated on the present life. It's deep enough to study the present life psychology, where would we have the chance to study previous life? Also, if you talk about previous life, you start getting into religion. And modern psychology, when you get into religion, is not psychology anymore. So they have a restriction. And when different psychologists talk about previous life, they got into a lot of arguments. Some people, I don't believe in previous lives. I only believe in the present life. But some do believe in previous lives. So some hypnosis therapy, they carry out hypnotic therapy, hypnosis therapy, by having the patients go through previous life through hypnosis. Some believe it and some don't. They don't have a consensus. So that's one major difference. Another major difference between modern psychology and the Buddhist Vijnanamatrita is the modern psychology only concerns about how your present life will lead to a happier ending, about temporal affairs, about the life, the present life, everything about the present life. But the Buddha's Vijnanamatrita goes into the enlightenment path, the saint life, a life that transcends this life, go into Buddhahood, nirvanic state of mind, which is the spiritual enlightened level, which is not the same as in the present sentient being temporal level. Modern psychology usually don't get into sainthood. They talk about how we feel, how sentient beings feel, how the animals feel, not about how a saint feels.